everyone see the on-demand screen?
Yes.
Cool. All right, let's try this again. So welcome to the section on on-demand applications. So this is a session about how you learn to use the on-demand system, which provides an interactive environment to schedule jobs on compute nodes instead of front-end nodes, using a graphical user interface instead of the typical batch submission script. So here we'll discuss the different types of on-demand interfaces, what they are, when to use them, which interface to use on each resource and how to start them, and how to set the job parameters for your application. There are different types of on-demand interfaces, but right now, among the NAISS resources that we teach about, there's one on Cosmos, there's one on Kebnekaise, and there's one on Dardel. And Cosmos and Dardel both use the desktop on-demand that was developed in-house at LUNARC. And Kebnekaise uses sort of a rival version called Open OnDemand that uses a dedicated web portal. So we'll mainly be focusing on Cosmos and to a lesser extent Dardel because of who's attending here, but this session is also being recorded for Kebnekaise users who could not attend today. So we'll start with Cosmos, but we'll then go to Kebnekaise. So you want to use desktop on demand for interactive work, especially interactive work requiring small to medium amounts of computing resources and relatively short amounts of time. If you have a non-interactive job, don't use this, just use the batch scripts. If you have jobs that take more than about 12 hours or so, it's kind of iffy and depends on your resource. On Cosmos, on Cosmos, we allow the use of interactive resources for much longer than is allowed at Kebnekaise, and much longer than you can even think of using on Dardel right now. But if you have a longer job that requires interactive interfaces, you need to keep track of your wall time. You might need to save frequently and close out and come back. It depends. Keep in mind, on-demand applications are not accessible via SSH. You have to use either the ThinLink client, which is what you would use on Cosmos and Dardel if you're lucky enough to get through, or you can use the dedicated web portal for Kebnekaise. Before I get too far away from that, I will open that in a new tab. All right. So for what's available in this course, RStudio is available on demand at all 3 facilities. Oh, shoot, did I not refresh this? Yes, there we go. On Cosmos, there are also on-demand interactive command lines for both CPUs and GPUs. And these allow you to, these might be applicable for if you want to use Julia, or if you want to open RStudio or Matlab if for some reason the standard interface fails. Another fun thing to keep in mind is that batch jobs that are submitted from within some of these interactive sessions are not bound by the same job parameters as the on-demand interface itself. This is more relevant in something like Matlab, where there is a built-in batch submission command. So that would allow you to submit a batch job from within the GUI and then close the GUI, and then you can come back to your job later. I don't know if RStudio has that. I'm mainly handling the Matlab section of this course. One more thing, if you're here with Dardel, don't count on Dartel being available via ThinLink right now. There are only 30 users total, or there are only 30 licenses total, so only 30 users can be active at a time. And Dartel is very heavily subscribed, so you're very unlikely individually to be able to access ThinLink at any given time. And even if you do, the queue times are extremely long. My last experience trying to start a job that was just 30 minutes left me waiting in queue for more than 30 minutes. So you can imagine how long it could be if you ask for a job that's several hours. Other PDC resources not covered in this course might be more flexible. But if you want to run a program on Dartel interactively, it's recommended to use SSH with what's called X forwarding. So you log in with SSH space -X space, and then your username at dartel.pdc.kth.se. And then you can follow the workflow that's described at this link here in the Dartel documentation. And as a quick reminder, if you don't need a full node, you should also use the shared partition, not the main partition. So there's a link here for discussing the Dartel partitions. Anyway, so let's get started on an example. So rather than read through this documentation, I'm just going to show you on this ThinLink window here. So as you can see, I've already logged into Cosmos. This is running on Cosmos 1. So all the on-demand applications are up under this applications menu right here. And all of the applications that are available on demand are these applications that have the word applications and a dash in front of them. Everything else here runs on the front end, so be aware of that. What you want to go to if you want to start RStudio, for instance, is go to applications-R, and then you'll see a couple of different versions of RStudio. And you'll notice that a couple of them have this CPU after them. What that's good for is if you have if you need more time, but you're not going to be using a lot of visualization resources, then you can get a CPU only node. And that will have limited graphic support, but you can run the program for longer. And because on Cosmos, these if a program has a CPU after it, it means that it's allowed to be run for up to 7 days, the same as if you submitted a batch script non-interactively. Whereas these other versions that are meant to work with some GPU support, these you can only run for 2 days at a time, at most. That being said, you don't actually want to run that many days in a row if you can help it, because first of all, the queuing time will be very long. And second of all, if you don't want to be using that much time for the sake of using that much time, because you'll blow through your allocation. So let's get started with an example. I'll pull up the latest version of RStudio CPU. So I'll click here. And then what pops up is this little pop-up that we call the GFX launcher. So this is the interface with the underlying on-demand system. And here you can see the application requirements. You have the wall time, which you have several options already filled out for you, but you are free to type in other things. Like, let's say I can type in 15 minutes if that's all I need. That will help me get a very quick queue time. For requirements, this is where you set the number of tasks per node. You can also click this little gear icon next to it, and you can expand you can get some more options. So like here, you can change the name of the job as it appears in the queue. So I can do like test RStudio RMJ course. Here you can increase the number of tasks per node. You can also change the amount of memory per core. This allows you to sort of steal memory from other cores if you have to. But you will be still charged for the full number of core equivalents. So like if you need to run a job that has on one core, but you need that core to be like have double the memory, so like 10,060 or 10,600 gigabytes for like shared memory applications, for instance, you'll still be charged for the core hour usage of 2 cores, not just 1. So be aware of that. You can also click this full reservation or full node if you need an entire node to yourself. That would give you on the CPU nodes, that would give you 48 cores. You can also use a reservation, and that in your case, some courses you might have that, and you might also have a reservation associated personally if you schedule something in advance, but we're not going to use that this time. So I'm just going to leave these resources as they are because I don't need anything extra. And I believe the project that we're using this time is this one. No, I need to, let me check the schedule. All right, for the sake of time, I'm just going to go back to, all right, so you would pick one of these. I forget which one it is, but I'm going to use LU test because that's my admin account. You would pick something different. And then I just click start. And once it's accepted into the queue, it turns green. That means it's started. And now what you see, remind later, ignore update. So now what you can see is at the top here, it says RStudio on CN060. That means this is on compute node number 60. And so you also notice that this little pop-up here does not go away. That's by design. You can see there's a little usage bar that you can use to keep track of how long you've been on your assigned node and how much time you have left. The other thing that you should note, and I'm going to demonstrate by making the mistake on purpose, if you close this, the entire application goes away. So leave that little GFX launcher window open. I'm also going to show this one because I know there's another option that you can ask for. All right, so if I pick the other RStudio, so the one that's not on a CPU node, you can see that the resources are different. The default requirements are different, but the available options that you get when you click this little gear icon are the same. You can also change the resource. By default, you have this AMD NVIDIA A40 480 core node. Now these are in very high demand, so these are actually limited to 24 hours. If you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of the number of cores for a longer time and for larger core sizes, then you can go for this Intel NVIDIA 48 hours. And that lets you run for up to 2 days. There should also be an option in these menus for to load a custom environment, but I don't see that here. So maybe that's just specific to maybe that's specific to the Kebnekaise. All right, but here it's pretty much the same deal. It's just that the maximum wall time that you can ask for is much smaller. Okay, so I will give this 15 minutes just so I can start it and show you how to properly close it. Actually, I'll give it 10 minutes to make it extra short. Again, it turns green once it starts. And then eventually you'll see a big R with an RStudio in front of it. There it goes. Unfortunately, the startup time does count a little bit against your usage, but it's normally negligible. Oh, good Lord, what is all that? Anyway, so let's say you're done working on let's say you finished your application and you no longer need this. If you have any time left, you can still close ahead of time. If the usage bar fills all the way up, once it gets to 100%, it closes immediately. So you need to save early and save often and keep track of your usage because it will close. If you're not careful, it will close on you immediately. But if you do manage to finish all your work ahead of time and you have time left that you don't want to be charged to your allocation, then you just can go to quit session. And usually that will stop this immediately. Yeah. For some applications, it may sort of just keep incrementing for a little while. In that case, you would want to hit the stop button. I think that's more of a concern for things like Matlab or Jupyter Notebook, which can have a kernel that continues to run in the background. Another thing that you want to pay attention to is if there are any errors. If something doesn't go as expected, like for instance, this little square turns green and then immediately goes gray again and nothing opens, or if for any reason, or you get a pop-up that says the application finished, even though it just started, or any of those other kinds of errors. Then what you want to do is click this More button and go to Log. And then you can look back through the timestamps and look for any error messages. So that's everything to do with Cosmos. Let me see, let me pull up the chat and see if there was any questions in the chat. Don't see any. Off to the side. Okay, so now I am going to before I go on to HPC2N, I just want to note that in almost every respect, this works almost exactly the same on PDC's Dardel as it does on Cosmos because they use the same software. On Dardel, the on-demand applications are prefixed with this PDC dash. Yes, and yes, I see a hand up. Go ahead.
Will you cover also Cosmos Sense?
No, because I don't have access to it.
I see. It's just because we don't have the application in the menu, so we run it through the code line.
Okay, so you have to use you have to use the command line and do the interactive threads that way.
Yeah.
In that case, you might be better off attending the other room.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so let's quickly move on to the to Kebnekaiser's on-demand version. So in this case, in the case of Kebnekaiser, you cannot get to on-demand through ThinLink. You have to use this dedicated portal. That's portal.hpc2n.umu.se. So I already have that open to the landing page. Let me disable dark reader. Okay, so you get here and then you log on to HPC2N on demand with your credentials. All right, and then you get to this sort of landing page right here. There will be, if there are any relevant announcements, you might want to take a quick look down here for the message of the day, but these, it looks like the latest announcement was quite some time ago, so I don't think you have to worry about that today. As for interactive apps, you just go right up here to this tab conveniently titled Interactive Apps. And so here you have the options of the Kebnekaise Interactive Desktop, Jupyter Notebook, Matlab Proxy, and RStudio Server, and VS Code. I will just click RStudio Server. And so then you get a whole bunch of these other options here. By default, you'll be assigned you'll have a list of a couple of project allocations to choose from. Usually the one that is currently active, if there's one that's active and one that's inactive. It will be sort of filled with whichever one is the like first in numeric order, if you've got multiple active projects. But if there's one that's active and one that's inactive, then because it hasn't activated yet, then it should fill in the one that's active automatically. Here you can set the number of hours. The maximum is 12, I believe. Here you can also set a runtime environment. So if you've installed your own custom packages to your own user directory, then you can come down here and select from your project folders if you have one, or if you have something in your own. If you have something in your project, you would go here. If you have something associated with you as an individual user, you go here. Otherwise, if you don't know what you want to use, just use one of the system provider ones. The RStudio base has most of the basic applications, and Bioconductor is a little bit more expansive. As for node type, the nodes that you can choose from are all described down here. If you don't know what you need, just pick the standard compute. Or just pick any, and then odds are it will still assign you to, if you pick any, it will assign you to standard compute. Then you can submit any GPU, and that gets you whichever one of these GPU enabled nodes is available. If you need a very large memory, you click large memory, and you'll be allocated one of those nodes. And then down here is where you can choose the number of cores. And also you can specify your working directory. By default, you don't have to enter anything. By default, it starts in your home directory. But if you want to choose something different, you can either type it out or click select path. And if you click select path, it'll bring you up to this little file browser that you can choose from. You can also click, I would like to receive an email when the session starts. This might be useful if you've requested a very long time and you expect to be in the queue for a while. But if you select a number of hours equal to 1, you should queue fairly quickly. And reminder, you should stick to the smallest number of hours that you think you can use. So I will just click launch to see how quickly this starts. So when it first starts, it will look like this. The top tab will be blue when it's either queuing or starting. You have the option to delete it immediately. There are a couple of these little notices here that are warnings about issues with graphics, but you don't necessarily need to worry about them if you're not doing graphical work. And once the application is done queuing and starts up, the tab up here turns green. And that's when you can go ahead and start it. And so you start it by clicking this click this RStudio server button down here. Oh, I forgot to delete that job. All right, so I click connect to RStudio server, then it opens a new window. And now you have your nice, pretty RStudio interface. Now, I'm not going to use this, so I'm just going to go ahead and close it immediately. But what you'll notice, if you wait here for a few seconds, is that this will continue to say that it's still running. And there is a nice aspect to this, which is that if you do accidentally close that tab for some reason, you can go back to it as long as it's still running. Like this. Then you can click this little power button to end your session if you're done early. But you'll notice that, again, this is still running. And that means it's still eating up your allocation. So if you want to recover any allocation time that you don't want to be charged against your monthly budget, then what you need to do is delete the job. Like that. And you just click that bright red delete button. And now I have no longer have any active sessions. All right. So I've already gone through all of this. And already gone through all of this. Any other questions? That was the end of the demonstration. If you need to go back through any of this material, it's here on this website with some pictures. Not all of the pictures, but most of the pictures.